Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everybody to the October 13th Oklahoma City Planning Commission meeting. First, I'd like to ask if you have cell phones, pagers, or any other electric devices, if you would please turn those off right now. We would appreciate that. If you are not the applicant and you have come to talk to us about a case, there are sheets that look like this. There are sign-up sheets. They're on the table outside the chambers. And if you would complete one and give it to our secretary, we would be happy to hear you when we hear the case. Okay. Check lights first, see how we're doing. Got them all? Okay. First item is approval of the minutes for the September 22nd meeting. Ma'am? Ma'am? I couldn't talk over you. I couldn't speak over you. Would you sit in the front? Maybe you'll be able to hear better.
Well, wait a minute. I'm supposed to have somebody with me, but she went to park someplace and she can't find the place. I don't hear.
We'll wait for her.
Okay.
Thank you. Again, back to the minutes, Commissioners.
I'll move approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the September 22nd minutes. Cast your votes. And the minutes are approved. Continuances, Russell?
We have 5 uncontested requests for continuance. Item 24, C6307. Item 25, a surety reserve is requested to defer until October the 27th. Item 26 is SN050, request to continue until November the 10th. Item 27, SPUD 631, request to continue until November the 10th. Item 28, SP440, request to continue until December the 8th.
Did anyone come today to talk to us about any of the cases just listed, items 24 through 28 on our agenda?
I'll move the continuance.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the continuances. Cast your votes, and they're approved.
We have 3 new requests for continuance. Item 3 is PC 10284, item 10, SP 439, and item 16, PUD 1443, all requested to continue until October the 27th.
Okay, same question. Did anyone here today to address us on items 3, 10, or 16 on our agenda?
Move the request.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve those items, 3, 10, and 16. Cast your votes, and that's approved. Are there any continuance requests from the public today?
Good afternoon. Tim Johnson with Johnson Associates. After talking to Mr. Yokel and understanding the staff's requirements on item 22, we would like to continue that 2 weeks to give the staff some additional time to review information we're going to provide them.
We're talking specifically about building materials, building height, and so forth in the specific plan for item 22, and that's not here today, so I take a motion to continue it 2 weeks. Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue item 22 to our next meeting. Cast your votes, and that's approved. Thank you.
On the consent docket today, we have 8 items. Item 3, we've had a request to continue. Item 1 is CE 811. Item 2, ED 198. Item 4, C 6308. Item 5, C 5934. Item 6, PV 078. Item 7, PC 10283. Item 8, PC 10286. Item 9, CE 813.
I do have someone signed up for item 1, so I'm going to pull that from the consent docket. Is there anyone who came today to talk to us about any of the other items, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9?
Move the remaining 10.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket, less items 1 and 3. Cast your votes. And they're approved.
1 and 2.
You have a variance?
Pardon me?
Variance of 2.
Oh, yes. There's a variance in item 2. We probably should vote on that separately since I didn't mention it. Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the variance TE2. Cast your votes. And the variance is approved. We're ready for item 1.
Item 1 is CE 811. It's an application by Oklahoma City Landfill to close Cross Point Drive in Ward 4.
I'm Robert Thompson, 6301 Waterford Drive in Oklahoma City. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. This, we don't have the aerial up there yet, but this is an application to close Cross Point Drive, which starts on the south boundary of Southeast 59th Street, goes straight south for about 400 feet. The landfill has now acquired all of the property on either side of this, and then this Cross Point Drive ends on the north boundary of the present landfill footprint. And the only occupants that have used this street in the last several years have been the occupants of the trailer park that's immediately on the west side of Cross Point Drive. We've acquired that tract last year, and as of now, all of the residents have removed from that trailer park. There remains 3 vacant trailers in there that will be moved within a week, but there are no residents remaining in the trailer park. And as a result of that, there's really no one that has a reason to be using this street. And surprisingly enough, we have security issues at landfill. For some reason, people like to break into landfills. And so what we'd like to do, of course, is put a fence across the northern boundary of that and block that street off, and eventually it'll become one of our future soil borrow applications. But for now, there's really not a valid purpose for anyone other than the landfill to use this street. And certainly welcome any questions you have.
We do have someone signed up. So, Ms. Roberts, I'd be more inclined to break out than break in, Mr. Thompson, but that's...
I understand.
Are you going to help, Ms. Roberts? So you're going to help? Okay.
Okay, my name is Lucille Roberts. My address is 2550 Southeast 59th. And I'm here about the road closing they have closed the road on one side of my property. Now they want to close the road on the west side of my property. And I had a lawyer, I've been in court before, and when my lawyer got up, I was winning the case to stop them from closing the other road, which had been open for years. And when my lawyer came up, the judge asked him, "What you got to say?" My lawyer stood up in court and told him that he didn't know nothing about it. I had paid him $6,000 to represent me, and they wound up closing my road. But now, instead of closing just the road on the east side straight back, they closed that straight back, and they also went west and closed the back of my road. First they asked to close just that side on the east side, but since there was nobody representing them, they went and closed the one back on the back side of my property too. Now they want to close the one on the west side.
How do you get to your property?
See what you say?
How do you get to your property?
From 59th straight Well, I live straight on 59th Street.
So if this road is closed and the road on the east side was previously closed, you still can get to your house?
Well,
Yes or no?
if they close all three, see, that means all three sides to be closed. I just got the front.
Well,
But
what's
I
wrong
got oil on my land, and that's the problem right there. If they can close me off, I can't get to the oil.
Is there a well on your
That's
side?
what we fighting on, the oil.
Is there a well on her property?
Huh? So what are you saying?
Is there a well on your property?
See, is there a way?
Is there a well on your property?
Yes, I own the reservoir. They don't.
Is it a producing well today?
Is it a producing well today?
It's, they not pumping yet because they haven't won the right for me to let them on there. See, they blocking me off so that I can't. But what I did is I had to go to court again. I am an Indian. They tried to say that nobody could have mineral rights unless they was an Indian. I am an Indian. And that's how they're trying to try to go around the law, because if they do, they break the treaty.
Mr. Thompson, is this road we're closing entirely on your property?
It is surrounded completely by our property, and it is several hundred feet west of Ms. Roberts' property. And she has no access from her property to this street.
Commissioners?
Have you got with Ms. Robertson to try to shore that relationship?
Yes, we have. We have a colorful history. The street she's referring to that was previously closed by this board and by the city council was Daisy Lane, because we likewise owned all the property around Daisy Lane. And you'll notice there's 3 short streets that go east off of Cross Point Drive. Those were previously closed by this commission and by the city council, and then both of those were subsequently permanently closed by district court action. Now, Ms. Roberts didn't participate in either one of those district court actions because she didn't have any connection to the street and didn't have any right.
And
She did oppose the last closing of Daisy Lane by saying there wasn't room to drill the well on her land, and she needed to keep the land that we owned in order to drill her well so that she could access the minerals on her property. And I think there's just some confusion by Ms. Roberts. We don't have any interest in any minerals that are in her property. In addition to that, Ms. Roberts, the only case I'm aware of where she did have an attorney, she sued the landfill and she sued the oil company, Trinity, immediately east of her, and she alleged in that suit that we had stolen her minerals and that we had polluted her property, the groundwater. And ultimately that case was dismissed by the court. Her lawyer did show up and did argue his points in the case, but Judge Gurich dismissed that case and actually granted us a judgment for attorney fees against Ms. Roberts, which we have declined to try to enforce and have not sought any for. We really, she's the only piece of property from Eastern Avenue to west of where this street is that we don't own, other than the oil company up in the corner. We have attempted several times by making, based on market value, generous offers to purchase her property and to allow her to keep any minerals that she owns. Our search of the records would indicate she doesn't own any minerals, but I think there's just some confusion by Ms. Roberts that this street won't affect her in any way. She can't get from her property to this street except to go out on 59th Street, which is her legal and lawful access to her own property.
Mr. Thompson, is this her house?
No, she's back east.
This right here? He's over here.
And the last, not the last, but the next to last soul borrow that was approved here, approved by council, wraps around her property, and she fronts on 59th Street. So we own properties east, west, and south of her property. So she couldn't access this street.
And I wish that this could be, there's a
We
hearing
tried
issue.
to explain.
Bob, you need your mic on.
Well, it may not be working.
Oh, okay.
Huh? Well, oh, there. But if there is, in fact, if you're, in fact, a mineral owner, and an oil company comes and leases your property, then an oil company has a right for ingress and egress to drill the
Absolutely.
well. That's what I wish that...
Well,
that
the reason I'm here...
Wait, this
Well, I gotta get
this
to it.
particular closure will have no effect whatsoever on the rights of an oil company to come in and drill the well if you do own the minerals. That's not going to affect this one bit.
Will you explain that to Ms. Roberts, please?
Can you talk a little louder for us?
Yeah. Well, here's... All right, very simply, if you own the minerals,
If you own the minerals,
Yes, I do.
and an oil company wants to drill a well on your land,
the oil company wants to draw oil on your well,
the oil company has the right to go over your land and drill the well. This closure has nothing to do with that.
he's saying if you own the mineral rights and the oil company needs to go over, they can go over and get to your land.
On your property.
On your property.
Well, the reason I'm here is I want to ask for a little bit more time so that I can bring in the Creek lawyers. But see, I've got that note too late, and I didn't contact them. But I need to be able to contact me a lawyer from the Cherokees, and somebody that can hear and somebody can represent me. The last time, the guy told them, I guess they paid, I don't know what happened, the reason he changed, because he sold me out on the last time. So what I want to do is to go to my Indian tribe and get them to come in and represent me. And the treaty say that since I am an Indian, they can't take the mineral rights away from me.
Nobody's taking mineral rights away from you. That's not what's before us. That's not happening.
Mr. Chairman,
To do with the mineral rights.
James.
she also will have the opportunity...
I'm called Washington already. I know better than that.
She also will have the opportunity to contact and get an attorney between now and council.
Right.
Would you let her know that? She still has an opportunity she still will have the opportunity to contact her council person, her lawyer, and have them before this goes to
Well,
council. So she has another opportunity.
That is why I can't hear.
Okay.
All right.
You still have an opportunity to get a lawyer before.
We need a motion, commissioners.
I'll make a motion to approve.
That's what I came to ask for.
You will.
To give me time to get a lawyer before, so that I can
And she will.
defend myself.
And you will.
You can do that. We have a motion and a second to approve
Okay,
item 1,
thank you.
commissioners.
You're welcome.
Cast your votes. And item 1 is approved.
Thank you very much.
We're on to items requiring separate vote. Item 10 has been continued until October the 27th. Item 11 is SPUD 630, application by West Point Self-Storage to rezone 11002 West Reno Avenue from C3 to SPUD 630 in Ward 3.
Good afternoon. David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. This should be a routine case. There are no mineral interests involved. We're not closing access from anybody. What our SPUD application is for is to allow a sign that's been erected for 25 years to remain. PUD 287 was enacted in the mid-'80s, and part of it allowed a billboard to be erected along I-40. There was a comment in the back of that PUD that said if development occurs within one of the lots, the sign would come down. Now, that comment was, the sign has since been sold, and that comment was missed by the title company. So what our application is seeking to do is to allow the spud, to allow the sign that's been there for 25 years to remain. Now, in the staff report, there is unfavorable number 2 I'd like to discuss. It states that the request seeks to renege on a commitment negotiated with the approval of PUD 287. And to that point, the applicant today, who currently owns the property, was not part of PUD 287. They were not part of the negotiation that would have happened. So to state that the applicant today is seeking to renege on a commitment from 287 is not accurate. And second, as you're getting passed out, you will see what was originally the PUD 287. And as you can see over time, there have been multiple new PUDs or spuds or straight zoning pulled out of the 287. So to say that a change in 287 is seeking to renege on a commitment is inaccurate. That would mean that any property in this city that is zoned one way and then is sought to be zoned another way, that person was seeking to renege on a commitment, and that's just not accurate. All we're asking for is for the sign that's been there for 25 years to remain. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Well, David, I agree with you on the renege language. Zoning items are amended all the time. The question is, do we have an opportunity to remove a billboard, and is that the pleasure of the commission and then the city council?
And my comment about the billboard being there for that length of time is that the property wasn't developed, that somebody had very good foresight back in the day to put that particular condition in the SPUD. And so I can't see any reason to have any other conclusion rather than, if it's going to be developed, remove the billboard. So I would move for a denial.
Well, I think to your point that people had foresight back in the day, I think that the foresight people had in 1985 or 1987, things changed, conditions changed. So maybe what was good in 1987 isn't necessarily good in 2011.
Oh, and I have one other observation, is that we're currently not involved with, that we're aware of a situation on the Kilpatrick Turnpike where we worked really very hard to reduce the signage, et cetera, and it was revealed that a billboard has been erected on a piece of property that clearly in the PUD that was established only allowed 2 15-foot monument signs. It's a different property owner, and I think the obligation is of property owners to explore very clearly and carefully what the land is, what restrictions there are, et cetera. I mean, so your client, who isn't the person that had the original restriction, was put upon notice that that particular restriction was there. And if he did that, then that billboard comes down. So that's the other observation, is that you really have an obligation to go to the courthouse and read what's in the property, the chain of title, and so I can't support this. So again, my motion is for a denial, as is recommended by the staff.
I think the original applicant's foresight was to have a revenue source for an undeveloped piece of dirt for all these years. Is there a second for Commissioner Brights? Second. Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to deny item 11. Cast your votes. And it is denied.
Thank you.
Item 12 is SPUD 634, an application by the Swatek family and the Hutton Company to rezone 4800 Northwest 23rd Street from PUD 1401 to SPUD 634 in Ward 3.
Good afternoon. Tim Johnson with Johnson Associates, representing the applicant. Also here with me today is Ben Carroll, who is representing the developer. Many years ago, we did a zoning case on this vacant land, which is PUD 1401, And we had C3 in the front with limited uses, and then personal storage in the rear on the south portion of the property. We're back before you today on this SPUD because there's a request before you to allow for a Family Dollar store to be constructed on this tract. However, the depth of the store went further south into the property that was not Zone C3 and required us to expand the property dimensions. So we're bringing before you an SPUD today that is large enough to encompass the building they want to build. As you have read the staff report, there's no negative comments in the staff report. The policy that you have with regard to signage is the issue that we want to discuss in detail. The current PUD, 1401, allows for a 20-foot pole sign. We are proposing today that we be allowed to build a 20-foot sign that has got a brick column base and restrict the square footage of the sign to 70 square feet. The current PUD allows for 120 square feet, 20 feet high. As Mr. Gales was so kind to pass around, we put together a picture of the signage that surrounds the property, and you can see very clearly there that there's quite a variety of signs all the way to highway height signs. So what we're proposing today would not be inconsistent with that. And you have copies of the sign detail as well. I wanted to also show you, this is the front of the store. It's their new prototype that they're using. It's all brick. The sign would be constructed on a brick column that would match the brick of the building, and then it's the standard Family Dollar logo on the sign that's reduced to a 70 square foot face. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
No one signed up, Commissioners.
James? I have an observation concerning the signs. When I look at your drawing that you're given of this elevation,
Yes, sir.
and when I look at the identification on the building, Family Dollar with the little logo in it, that alone is about 20 feet high. And
You mean this?
that's about 20 feet high. So it's kind of almost saying the same thing. I mean, you're getting some recognition up at that height. So I really would still support the monument sign.
Well, of course, the sign would be very similar to the storage sign that's next to our site in that it's turned perpendicular to the roadway. It can be seen by the passers, the traffic. This sign wouldn't be able to be seen until you turn in and see the building, or you're close enough that you might miss the turn. The other restriction on this property is it only has one driveway. It's very limited access. It's a leftover piece of property. It's an infill project. Part of this property, or the most of this property, was an abandoned railroad right-of-way. And that's why it has such an obscure shape. So we're limited in access. We've attempted to get a cross-access agreement with the property owner to the west unsuccessfully to allow better circulation and better access to the site. So we're limited to the single driveway.
Tim, what is the setback of your storefront to the street?
We are about 85, 6 feet back to the storefront. And the sign would be right next to the drive here. Sorry, north is down in this picture.
So how far is the sign off the street, Tim?
The sign is right behind the property line, right by the
About 30
driveway.
somewhere close to 30 feet?
Would be from the back of the curb, probably 30 feet, yes, sir.
And to the face of your building,
It's another,
How many
from the
feet?
property line to the face of the building is 85 feet.
75,
85,
85?
yeah.
If I'm understanding the aerial, the storefront would not be visible traveling either east or west on 23rd Street. Tim, that's
That's what I was trying to explain, yes.
okay. Yeah. They need some sign because you're just not going to see the
That's why I was
building
supporting that
front.
monument sign.
And I do appreciate the handout, Tim, that you've handed out, which is the reason why there should be significant work on behalf of us and council to completely revise our sign policy. This is pollutive of a city. all of these signs, and you're adding to it. You're adding the same, it's the same old, and so what I think is that the next person that comes in on 23rd Street, if he just doesn't take over a building that has a vacant sign on it and put it up there, is that the obligation that I think that the city has to have is to start a precedent where things are better. And a monument sign, believe me, an 8-foot monument sign is higher than my car. And driving down the street, I can see it. It's on the street. I can see exactly what it is. And this, you're just adding to the sign pollution along 23rd Street. This is hard. 23rd Street, May Avenue, you name it. I mean, and that's why I think that I like your building. I like the project you're doing. I don't think there's a thing wrong with it. But there's no reason for you to compete with pawn, what else do we have? Self-storage, Pollo, I don't know, just junk.
Tim, I'm going to have to agree. I think that I have a Dollar General near where I live, and I actually go there quite often. I can't tell you what kind of sign they have, okay? And I don't know that it really matters to a Dollar General that they have a 20-foot tall sign. I just don't think it's going to be that critical an issue for them. I don't think you're going to accomplish anything you couldn't accomplish with the monument sign that we're talking about. So I'm going to move to deny this.
Before we vote on that,
We don't have a second yet either, so go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
I mean, if we were to change this to a standard monument base and a monument sign that would be about the width of the sign logo itself, would there be any consideration to allowing us to go up to 12 or 15 feet? I mean, that's been a fairly consistent recommendation by this body.
That would be all right.
Okay, we can agree to that.
So,
Well, okay, in that case, no one signed up. Janice, did you want to? In that case, I'll take a motion to amend item 12 to a 12-foot monument sign with the Family Dollar logo.
so moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 12 as amended. Cast your votes.
Thank you.
And you're approved.
Item 13 is PC 10285, an application by EKM LLC to rezone 600 Southeast 79th Street from R1 Single Family to I2 Moderate Industrial, Ward 4.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Dwight Butler with Anchor Engineering. I represent the applicant on this item, and I have read the staff recommendation and totally agree. I would ask for your approval and happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, no one signed up.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve item 13. Cast your votes. And it's approved.
Thank you very much.
Is that amending the west 300 feet?
Oh, yeah, Dwight, you want to explain what you agreed with the staff?
The west 300 feet would be zoned as I-1 instead of I-2.
We need another, give me another motion and a vote, then we'll do it. So we're clear.
Okay, the west,
The west 300 feet, which is in the staff recommendation that I agreed to before the vote.
the west 300 feet will be I-1?
Yes, sir.
Okay, rather than I-2?
Yes, sir.
That's my motion.
So is there a second so we can cast?
Second.
Okay. Cast your votes. And that's now included in the motion. Thanks, Dwight.
Thank you.
Item 14 is CE 812, an application by Terra Verde Development to close a portion of the platted drainage common area and utility easement in Featherstone Addition, Section 2, Ward 5.
Chris Anderson with SMC Engineering representing the applicant. This is a closure of a partial portion of a utility easement. There was a concern from the Utilities Department, which was just, expressed in the staff report. I did meet with Nathan Madenwall, Sanitary Sewer Department, yesterday and alleviated his concerns, and that's what allowed this item to go forward today. So just request approval of this item.
Okay, Commissioners, no one signed up.
Mr. Chairman, there's a staff recommendation for continuance to meet with Utilities Department. Has that been done?
Yes, I had that meeting yesterday with Nathan Maddenwall.
But that's all utilities, not
Yes, that was the only comment, was on sanitary sewer.
move approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 14. Cast your votes, and it's approved. Thank you, Chris.
Item 15 is CE 814, an application by Ethan and Wendy Argenbright to close a portion of Plattage Drainage and Utility Easement and Brookwood Village in Ward 5.
Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Wendy Argenbright. I live at 9704 South Trafalgar Drive, the property in question.
Thank you.
We have a property shown and highlighted. We're looking to add 2 bedrooms and a bathroom to the house. We've recently adopted some children and need rooms for them. The utility and easement was a utility and drainage easement, went right up against the house. The purpose of that was there was an underground electrical line. OG&E has since de-energized that, and they have written us a letter that says that they have no plans to use that portion of the easement in present or in the future. And we've spoken with the drainage engineers in the drainage department, and they have asked us to revise the easement that you currently see, and we had the surveyors revise it. So they have signed off on a new easement. I need a larger picture here. If you look at the one there from the north corner of the garage, we're going to be going out 16 feet, back 38 and a half feet, and angled over to adjoin the corner of the house, and that will give us just enough easement for the additions that we're planning on putting in without encroaching on the sanitary sewer easement. There's a sanitary sewer line that crosses the property. The drainage department has requested a 10-foot easement. We are well within that. We have 13 and a half feet until the new proposed closing of the easement.
Okay.
So we've only closed the portion used by OG&E. We have a letter from the representative of OG&E and sign off from the utilities department, or the drainage.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? No one signed up. Move approval. Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 15 as modified after discussion with various parties. Cast your votes, and you're approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 16 has been continued until October the 27th. Item 17 is C6298, which is a revised preliminary plat of Oakdale Valley, Section 5, in Ward 7.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ernie Ish with Ish & Associates, representing the applicant. Clay Cold Iron, Development Manager for OV Development, is also here. I would like to show you the current preliminary plat on this piece of property that's current today. It has 64 lots on it. Our revised preliminary plat has 50 lots, a reduction of 14 or 22%. And the principal reason for that reduction is because of the slopes and the timber coverage on the property. We're trying to preserve that by putting 6 acreage lots in that area. I agree with the technical evaluations. Item 2 and item 3 we need to discuss, and I have an exhibit here related to the pedestrian trails. Item 2, to serve the 6 acreage lots, we're proposing a 20-foot wide private driveway. I believe the regulations call for 24. We believe 20 is adequate, and we're providing a large cul-de-sac turnaround at the end of that driveway. So we're asking for a variance for that private drive.
Okay. Can you show us the sidewalk plan and how we get to the amenities in the common area?
This shows the entire subdivision of Oakdale Valley, and what you see in yellow are existing sidewalks and pedestrian paths around the lake and along the streets. And what you see in magenta are what we're proposing to construct with Phase 5 that would tie into those existing sidewalks and pedestrian pathways.
Where are the amenities, Ernie, that we'd be wanting to get to if we lived there?
The primary amenity is the lake and the development around the lake.
And then there is a park right here on this corner. And then there is a swimming pool and clubhouse down here off the main Valley Crossing Drive.
Okay.
So we have pedestrian access to all of those.
All right, Commissioners, discussion. No one signed up.
I move approval of the variance.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the variance. Cast your votes. And it's approved.
I move approval of the application, including the documentation that's been shared with us on the pedestrian ways.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve item 17. Cast your votes. And it's approved.
Thank you very much.
Item 18 is SPUD 632, an application by Northwood Elementary and Piedmont Public School to rezone 14100 Northwood Drive from R1 to SPUD 632 in Ward 1.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. On behalf of the applicant, also with me is Jackie Parrish from Piedmont School System and Eric Anderson. This application is for a sign, as you can see on the board, along Northwest Highway to serve this new Northwood Elementary School. The sign is 22 feet tall, and the reason for the location of the sign, it sits in the grass island. Here's a better exhibit that you can see why we placed it here. It sits in a grass island as you're traveling down Northwest Highway. The other portions of the property are used for parking and other things. The reason for the height and the ground clearance, and I'm going to have Mr. Parrish get up here and speak about this, parents picking up students looking to turn back left on Northwest Highway, a monument sign would create a significant hazard. As everyone knows, Northwest Highway is a road that carries a lot of traffic and a lot of traffic at a high rate of speed. A monument sign would block a person trying to turn left and go back east. Allowing ground clearance that we provided for will allow people turning left to see cars coming, as well as allow the traveling public going west to see if any cars are going to be turning out and coming back left. Now, I'm going to let Mr. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, is there room to move that sign to the north so the site triangle functions?
No.
No.
And why is that? In other words, set it back just a little bit further from Northwest Highway than you're proposing, so you're not blocking the site triangle. Is that possible?
Yeah, that's the sign.
Give us your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Jackie Parrish, Assistant Superintendent of Piedmont Schools.
You can't see it.
We could move it back a little bit. It has been, utilities have been run to that site there from the original plans for electricity there, so it can be moved back a little bit, but not a whole lot. As you can see, that's a bus loop that is right there, so there's only probably 10 to 15 feet there before you get to the...
So your school bus loop takes access from Northwest Highway?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Could you move it to the east of the entrance there on the east side of the school?
To the whole east side of the school?
In other words, before the area where you pull in for the school buses, the drop-off?
We'd have to do all utilities differently there, but it could be moved back to the east there. But
that would eliminate the traffic.
Well, not really. If you look where the loop is, okay, that area right there, that's a driveway that leads out into Northwest Highway also. That parents come around the school, pick up their kids, and go and exit out that area there.
But if you move it into this sort of triangular shaped area there, just down there.
Down?
Yeah, there. Couldn't it be moved down there in a place where it could be seen easily but wouldn't be blocking into the site triangle?
Like I said...
that close to the corner, but it's pretty big space there.
It could be put there. Like I said, we have cars that exit out right there back to the east of that triangle area there onto Northwest Highway. So
What's the speed limit on Northwest Highway there, 55?
Actually, thanks to Oklahoma City and the Traffic Commission, we've got a school zone there, so during 8:30.
25 mile an hour speed limit on a highway?
It's not 25, it's 45.
Is that all bus traffic that's proposed there, or
No, there's cars that come through there.
will there be bus traffic there?
There is bus traffic there, yes.
Okay, so the bus is going to make the loop and come back out?
They do make that loop and come back out. This is our second year for this school to be there, so.
But basically, the way I view it, just from a graphic standpoint, is that this looped circulation, the circulation that loops,
Yes?
that's circulation all on site, right?
Is what?
That's on-site circulation.
That is correct, yes.
So on-site circulation is not going, I would think the speed would not be as much because of on-site, and I can't really visualize the impedance of the view if that's on-site circulation. It's not out on the highway. It's not even at the point where you get on the highway.
That is correct.
So I'm having a hard time with...
Well, in Northwood Drive, which is to the, back to the west there, and when you're looking back to the east, a lower sign would block that view.
What is the setback, David, from the highway for the southernmost part of that sign? I'm not talking about to the shoulder, I'm talking about the paved surface of the highway, the lane, the slow lane.
I'm not sure of the exact, here's an
You need to go to the microphone. Microphone.
I'm not sure of the exact setback, but here's an aerial. You can see the white box represents where the sign is. And Mr. Williams, to your point, this traffic coming here, it would block them looking this way to see the traffic coming back towards the west. So I think this gives a better illustration of why it's placed where it is. This is that grass island. Here is the bus traffic, and then you have parents coming here. So this is the spot that works for this site, and that's why it was selected.
Answer this question. The present location you have now, is that or is that not in the site triangle that's required by the planning?
No, it is not.
Thank you.
Now, during school, when there's going to be most traffic there, is when school starts in the morning and ends in the evening.
Correct.
So you're going to have school signs up, flashing lights that says 25 miles an hour, right? Or 45. 45 in a school zone?
The state highway.
I thought it was a state law that you had to... I know it's a highway, but I thought it was a state law.
We'd love for you to change it to 25, but...
Yes.
You don't get
So the traveling public, they'd love it too.
Well, back to the aerial, I don't know what the difficulty would be in putting an 8-foot monument sign somewhere in the vicinity of the corner of Cemetery Road and Northwest Highway on your property. That'd be from the square box. You just move it over there to the west on the corner, or to the northwest, and just put it there.
Because that doesn't allow the eastbound traveling public to see it by the time you see it. It's already...
The school buses know where the school is. Parents know where the school is. This is not a mystery, and you're not advertising a giant filling station so that you're going to be able to slow down and stop. They know where the school is. This is what doesn't make any sense about what it is you want to have. Are you advertising for they know the school, so just put the sign right there on the corner. It seems like that's more in the front of the school anyway, and just move it over there. There's no reason to have an appearance corridor with a 22-foot flashing level 3 sign advertising an elementary school. I don't get it. I really don't get it at all.
And we're certainly willing to have maybe a level 2, but this is the sign that works for the property. We feel very strongly that a monument sign doesn't work for the reasons I've stated. And this is the sign that allows the school to advertise where they're at and be safer for the traveling public. And this is the location for the sign that works.
I'm glad my children don't go to an elementary school placed on a highway. That makes, to start with, no sense to me.
Mr.
I
Chairman?
think access should have been off of Northwood or whatever it's called, be a lot safer and easier. I'm not in favor of the level 3 EMD sign, and you've got a non-accessory sign here with the bank advertised, which obviously you can't do.
That's right.
Now I have a question about the message board. I'm confused. What is the purpose of the message board? What's going to be on it?
Advertising school activities and athletic events and PTO meetings and things of that nature.
Basically, notice to parents type thing. Basically communicating with parents.
Correct.
No commercial advertising.
No, none whatsoever.
That's what's indicated in the PUD, and that's what, when you said a non-accessory sign, you're talking about the logo?
I'm talking about FM Bank's logo on there.
Yeah. I asked that question. They're apparently paying for the sign?
Yes, sir, they are.
Thank you. And how large is that logo?
What was the question?
How big is the logo?
How big is the F&M Bank logo? Well,
Under our ordinance, whatever the size is, it is non-accessory.
Obviously, it's going to be big enough to be seen, or it wouldn't be up there.
sure. And all the concerns that we've heard, we've taken into consideration, and this is the sign that we're requesting, and this is the location we are requesting, and we would like a vote on it.
Okay, I move to deny. Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny item 18. Any further discussion, Commissioners? Cast your votes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Item 19 is C-6249. It's the revised final plat of Dorchester Park in Ward 2. It's located east of May Avenue, north of Wilshire.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Kelly Work, and I'm an attorney representing the applicant Copperleaf LLC with respect to this final plat of Dorchester Park. The application for this final plat approval is with respect to this 3.1-acre tract that's located at Dorchester and Guilford. It's at a location there east of May Avenue and north of Wilshire. Kuhn Engineering is serving as the engineer on the project, and Brian Kuhn is here today, and I'm going to ask Brian to speak to you about drainage on the proposed development in just a few minutes. Copperleaf owns this 3.1-acre R1 zoned property that is currently vacant. The houses that were formerly there have been removed. This revised final plat proposes 7 single-family residential lots for a density of 2.26 dwelling units per acre. This proposed plat is significantly different from the preliminary plat that was considered and denied by the Commission in 2009. The previous 2009 application proposed 10 lots that were oriented around an interior street that was proposed to be added. It changed the orientation of the lots away from Dorchester onto the proposed street. There were strong objections to the 2009 application, principally to the density of the development and to the size of the lots, and also to the change in the orientation that would have resulted from the interior street that was proposed. Following the Commission's denial in 2009, there was a lengthy litigation process, the end result of which was that the Planning Commission's decision to deny the preliminary plat was upheld. Since the appellate court's decision, we have now significantly revised the proposed plat in an effort to meet the objections that were raised both by staff and by residents of the neighborhood, and with the desire and in an attempt to try to find a reasonable compromise. Toward that end, as I mentioned, we've reduced the number of lots from 10 to 7. The reduction in the number means that the lots are larger. The proposed final plat that is before you today will have lots ranging in size from 17,185 square feet, or 0.39 acres, to 20,918 square feet, or 0.48 acres. We have eliminated the interior street, as you can see from the plat, and all of the streets will be oriented towards the existing street, Dorchester Drive. Each of the 7 lots will be wider than what was proposed with the previous plat. They will each have a width of 84.98 feet, and many of the lots that are existing along Guilford there to the east of our property and along Elmhurst to the south and east are 80 feet wide. So the lot width at the front with respect to these proposed lots in this final plat will be wider than many of the lots that exist within those 2 blocks to the east of us. Now, these revisions have been in an effort to preserve the traditional character of the neighborhood and to have these new homes built in a way that will be compatible and harmonious with the existing homes in the area. The homes will be built subject to building restrictions to ensure that the design and the style and the construction materials will be tasteful and of high quality, and we propose that those restrictions be included as plat notes on the plat, and I have copies of those that I'll ask Tripp Cunningham to pass out to you at this time. But those restrictions include, in addition to a proposed 60-foot front yard setback, which will preserve the depth, the front yard depth that exists with respect to many of the homes in the area. They provide for a minimum house size of 2,600 square feet for a single-story. They provide for restrictions and controls on the type of exterior materials that may be used, restricting from any metal or vinyl siding or concrete block materials on the exterior, and requiring that the exterior have at least 80% wood, brick, stone, stucco, or glass, or some combination thereof. They will also have restrictions on the type of windows allowed, restrictions on the type of fencing, providing that no wire fencing will be allowed, and additionally restrictions on exterior lighting to protect neighboring properties from light being shined onto adjoining tracts. Since this Nichols Hill Suburban Tracts plat was recorded in 1937, there have been many re-subdivisions of lots that have occurred within the addition. And we have an exhibit that I'd like to show to you at this time. That's an aerial photo where we've located the other lot splits that have occurred since the plat was recorded in 1937. Now, this is covering a lot of area here, so let me just orient you. Here's the subject property, or I'll ask this Tripp to point out. The subject property is there marked as Dorchester Park. On the west side there is May Avenue. Here's Wilshire to the south. This is Elmhurst coming through, Guilford coming through. Here's Greatstone. And what...
Kelly, where is the eastern boundary of the subdivision, and where does Nichols Hills begin on that? You're showing some of Nichols Hills in there, are you not?
This Nichols Hills, I believe, would begin about... well, I'm not sure about that. I think it's at wherever Christ King School is, so it would be here. So it would include area that is in Nichols Hills, although really the point of the exhibit and what we wanted to illustrate to you is the yellow dots that you see located on there are lots that have resulted from re-subdivision or splits since the plat was recorded in 1937. So those would include the first 4 lots of the block within which the subject property resides. So those first 4 lots, now there are 6 houses that are existing on those 4 lots as they've been divided into 6. The 2 lots immediately, these 2 lots immediately across Dorchester from the subject property have been split and now have 4 houses on them. The lot that is immediately to the south across Elmhurst from the subject property, there's 1 lot between us and Elmhurst, but the house or the lot that is immediately south on Elmhurst has been subdivided from 1 lot into 2 lots. And I mention those to point out that this proposed plat that requests that these 5 lots be subdivided into 7 is not going to be establishing a precedent. This re-subdivision has occurred on many occasions in this edition, and that was a point that is made in a number of the letters that the Commission has received from persons who are opposing the application. The lot sizes that are proposed in this preliminary plat, or excuse me, this final plat, this is a final plat application, will be going from a range of 0.57 acres to 0.65 acres, that's the size of the existing 5 lots, to a range of 0.39 acres to 0.4 acres. So with this final plat, the lots will range from over 1/3 of an acre to just under 1/2 an acre. The lots are still going to be large lots and well within the range of lot sizes that exist in the neighborhood. There's another exhibit that I would like to make a part of the record is there has been reference made to the original plat by a number of the letters that have been submitted to the Commission, and I just want to state that we have obtained the permission and consent of the successor to G.A. Nichols, Inc., who is identified as the company in the original plat. The company did retain certain authority under the plat to approve subsequent proposals, and we have, and I wanted to have that included as part of the record, obtained the consent of the successor to G.A. Nichols, Inc. to this replat of these lots from 5 to 7 lots. Now, we are in agreement with each of the TEs that are on the staff report, and I mentioned that I know that drainage is a subject of concern for the neighborhood. The area is very flat and has experienced drainage problems in the past, so what I'd like to do is have Brian Kuhn come up and just address some of those issues and talk about how we will handle drainage with respect to this proposed development. Okay. Brian?
Good afternoon. For the record, Brian Kuhn with Kuhn Engineering, representing the applicant. Have been discussing stormwater with the Stormwater Management Department here in Oklahoma City for a couple of weeks. In the staff report talks about the detention is required, and then yesterday they came up with there's a storm sewer line that runs across the front of this property, and as of yesterday they said we would have to increase the size of that storm sewer. As of today they said that storm sewer pipe is adequate to handle the 7 lots. So we don't have to increase the size of the storm sewer. One of the issues was there's a water line that needs to be increased on the size of that, so we agree to that. Today, or when we were talking about detention, I'll make it a very simple analogy. You can either build on 5 lots, you could build 7,000 square feet houses. So you could build 5 7,000 square feet houses, or you could build 7 5,000 square feet houses. So as far as square footage of what can be built on this property, we're actually, in this case, going to decrease what's actually available because we're adding 2 more side lot lines, which takes out 10-foot strips between those lots. So we're taking out land that could be built on. In Oklahoma City, you can still only build on a percentage of your buildable area, but again, that buildable area is going down by what we're doing. So we're going to decrease what could actually be built on these lots. Today, before the meeting, I talked with Mr. Adair Agrawal, and he commented that their requirement for this development is going to be whenever we exceed 20,000 square feet of building on these 7 lots, the detention has to be required. So there could be one small detention pond on one lot that until we reach that 20,000 square feet, we don't have to add any detention. So there's a potential with, like he said, the minimum lot size I think was house size of 2,700 feet. There's a chance you could build all 7 lots and still not reach that threshold of having to do detention. Again, there's a storm sewer pipe in the front, so that detention can be handled very easily and built easily for that. So your own staff has determined that we are not going to endanger the drainage in any way over what's already there. You know, if it was undeveloped property completely, yeah, we're going to increase impervious surface. But in this case, we're going to decrease what is actually allowed now. And if you go build 5 homes, he could go build 5 large homes and no detention is required at all because they're already platted. So by going to 7, it will increase or improve any conditions that are out there now.
I'm just thinking, Brian, with a 2,700 square foot house and then a garage, 2 or 3 car garage, you're going to exceed that 20,000 square feet on 7 lots. There's no doubt in my mind.
No doubt. I'm just saying, but we're still decreasing what could be done now with 5.
Okay. We do have people signed up. Any questions before?
Question for Brian. I've got one question for Brian. If there was any indication of any problem with drainage or runoff or whatever, you know, it's just curious to me that in connection with just the planning of building a house on these lots, why don't you provide detention on all of them? I mean, it's just it's a thing where water goes in there and collects water. I don't see the big deal.
It sounds very simple. The cost of them is, to build 3 or 4, you've got to have an outlet, you've got to maintain them. Again, like I said, with right now 5 houses, no detention would be required at all. And you're right, we will exceed the 20,000, I'm sure. And at that point, we will start creating detention. You could do that on every new home that is built in Oklahoma City if necessary, but it's not necessary in this case because we're not increasing the runoff from what's already allowed there now.
Okay.
I just think it would be an unnecessary expense that really doesn't serve any purpose at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of Mr. Work or Mr. Kuhn before we hear from the protesters?
Well, I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead. You had
It's probably of counsel. We have these proposed plat notes, which, as I understand it, that the plat before us that filed with planning doesn't have any of these notes on it. But assuming these notes were on the plat, how is this enforced? I understand how they're enforced in a PUD or an SPUD, but how are the plat notes enforced? I don't know if that's for staff or it's legal.
I'm not really sure I can answer that. I haven't seen this many plat notes. These look more like covenants to me, but as long as they're reasonable, I would assume that we would enforce them like we do any other plat note.
Well, but we don't enforce covenants by definition.
Right. But covenants usually are in a separate agreement and not on the
Not
plat
on the plat.
themselves.
Right.
So I don't know. Kelly, you might be, I don't know if you've talked to Dan about this, but this is the first time I've seen this many notes. But
Mr. Chairman, may I respond to Mr. Gale's question?
Please do.
Mr. Gales, I have spoken with Mr. Brummett about this issue, and there is a statute under the enabling legislation for the Planning Commission that grants the authority for subdivision plat review and approval, and it does give the commission authority to, with agreement with the applicant, to include these types of restrictions as plat notes on the plat, and then they become enforceable by the city just like a zoning ordinance.
I understand that. My question is, how do we do that? You know, I understand statutorily we can. Do we just send our, and that's why I said I don't know if it's legal or if it's staff, do we just send our zoning inspector out there with plat in hand?
Exactly. It would be enforced just like any other zoning requirement. I'm not sure about the standard common house colors. That's a little bit vague. But
Yeah, there were a couple of vague things when I looked at it.
Thank you.
Okay. We have 3 people signed up to speak, and possibly before we're done, more of you will raise your hand. We'll see. Jim Brown might as well come up first since he's signed up first. We do want to limit our comments, Jim, to this application and not to Nichols Gate. Give us your name and address for the record, Jim.
Jim Brown, 2609 Guilford Lane. First, just to respond to Mr. Work, it would seem that any comparison between this application and any previous version of it is kind of irrelevant. And I would like to respectfully disagree. I think this would be precedent-setting because there have been an amendment to the Oklahoma City plan that addressed the preservation of traditional lot sizes in our neighborhood just not too many years ago. I'd like to address the notion that this developer should be permitted to split lots in part because there are already other split lots in the neighborhood. Several years ago, the city recognized the need to preserve the qualities and characteristics of our subdivision and others like it, but specifically with ours in mind, and it commenced to amend the plan to address that objective. I suspect that 0 of the lot splits that have taken place in our neighborhood happened after that amendment was made. Obviously, the city felt like we had something to preserve, otherwise it wouldn't have wasted its time on us. Obviously, the vast majority of the residents in our subdivision agree that we have something to preserve, or we wouldn't have organized and fought this type of development for many years. It's been very costly, and we believe we have something special to preserve here. The city recognized the need in our neighborhood to preserve traditional lot sizes, and I don't think that one single lot has since been split. In other words, we have exactly as much to protect today as we had at the time that you decided to help us protect it. Therefore, there's no reason to change course. It doesn't conform to the Oklahoma City plan, and this applicant has another remedy at his disposal that does. That's all I have.
Any questions of Mr. Brown? Thank you. Janie Axton.
I'm Janie Axton. I live at 2628 Elmhurst, and I'm president of the Nichols Hills Suburban Neighborhood Association. The association continues to oppose the dividing, splitting, or replatting of any lots in our subdivision. The association very strongly embraces the Oklahoma City plan, which emphasizes the uniqueness of our area. The proposed development isn't necessary. Home sales and construction are robust in Nichols Hills Suburban. Lots such as these 5 are desirable and in demand for families who are wanting to build homes on large pieces of land, on existing lots that are close to schools and retail shopping. The members of the association overwhelmingly objected to this developer's replat proposal at a recent association meeting, one where he was when he presented it to us. We object to it because his plans would lead to a change in the character of our neighborhood, a neighborhood that has flourished for 70 years. There are a number of others here today who are in protest of this proposal, and I'd like for them to please stand at this time. Thank you.
Joe Foster.
My name is Joe Foster. I live at 2609 Drakestone Avenue, and I'm the chairman of the Neighborhood Drainage Committee. We've been facing stormwater drainage issues in our neighborhood. It's become worse as we've seen the neighborhood redevelop, which it is systematically doing, basically from south to north. What we see is that our stormwater system swamps. It completely fills up, and then the drains become delivery systems to the lower-lying properties. This problem has been exacerbated by the increased density at the Nichols Gate and other bigger structures that we're seeing at Christ the King as well as West Nichols Hills Elementary. Now, I've lived in the neighborhood 10 years, and what was on these 5 lots previously was 5 very small houses. The proposed application seeks to increase density by 40%. We think it's unfair that the down-gradient properties are burdened by this stormwater issue because of this redevelopment. So similarly, this issue of other properties, average lots in this neighborhood are about 30,000 square feet. And I have several lots nearby my house that I certainly don't want to have to come back here and face you guys again on the issue of increasing density on those properties. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else among you who'd like to come up and address us? This is the time. Okay. Mr. Work, response?
Very briefly, Mr. Chairman, there is an additional exhibit, just because the reference has been made to it in the comments today and also in several of the letters with respect to the suggestion that the Nichols Gate development to the south has exacerbated the drainage problem for the area, and therefore they're concerned that this will happen with respect to this development as well. I just would like to provide a copy of a letter that was prepared by Johnson & Associates in response to a neighbor's request where he gave his report of Johnson & Associates had designed the detention on Nichols Gate, and in this letter he just points out that it had been reviewed after the development was completed, that it is performing as designed, and that he says there, beginning at the bottom of the first page, the end result is a facility that provides a 57% reduction in flow to the north and a pond that contains 642% more storage capacity than required when compared to the normal detention requirements of Section 16-9. So there has been substantial review that was done with respect to the detention that was provided for Nichols Gate, and according to Mr. Johnson, the engineer who designed it, his review of its ability after it was completed is that it is performing as required, and that it in fact exceeds the city's requirements. I think in concluding, Mr. Chairman, I would just say that our objective in submitting this revised final plat was to attempt to address the objections that had been stated with respect to density and the orientation of the lots and the size of the lots, and we feel that we've done that, and that what we have now proposed is a reasonable compromise that will preserve the character of the area, and we feel confident that these homes will be very nice homes that will be a nice addition to the neighborhood. We appreciate your attention, and we would request you vote approval. Thank you.
Commissioners, a question of Mr. Work or any of the protesters? Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know how to start or where to start. This deal's a mess. I believe Mr. Work gave us a pretty good history of what's been going on here. When we heard this, or saw it numerous times and then ultimately heard it, I I believe we were unanimous in our concern that a little private enclave with the density that being proposed was certainly not within the character of the neighborhood. After all that played out, the applicant and his attorney came to see me and said, what about 7 lots? That's less density, do away with the enclave concept, put them all on the street, make it more compatible with the neighborhood, which I frankly agree that is more compatible than the previous application, certainly less dense than the previous application. We discussed other things. One of the things we discussed was the level of protest, the concern of the neighborhood, what the neighborhood was trying to accomplish and maintain. And one of the suggestions I threw out for consideration was, even though this land is zoned, they may want to put it in an SPUD where they could make the type of commitments to the neighborhood that some of what was being suggested. I was told they didn't want to do that because of expense and time, that they thought they could do it with plat notes, which is, I'm kind of with Ms. Randall on that. I've never seen that done in my years here, but apparently it can be done. And now we have some things suggested in the plat notes. When I received my staff report, I frankly expected to see the committed plat notes enumerated in the staff report, set out, and talk about things that we typically see in PUDs. What I did have, received from the applicant, was a notebook with some things in it that had one section on proposed plat notes, which is consistent with what was handed out today. And these notes, I'll say more than half of them, I haven't counted, but just scanning them, most of these notes are in the nature of things that are on the plat anyway. They may not be spelled out in the plat, but, for example, lot sizes. Well, they are on the plat. They're marked individually on the plat. Will meet DEQ standards. Well, you have to. Meet City Planning Commission standards. Well, you have to. So I'm a little disappointed that, one, these are not as committing and detailed as I had, one, expected. Two, I'm disappointed in the results of the meetings, and I believe that's frankly because this thing has played out so long and so hard that the well is poisoned. I don't believe this applicant, frankly, can do anything to appease the neighbors, and I don't believe the neighbors are going to be appeased with anything short of no changes at all. I believe the neighbors have a valid argument that they're trying to preserve their neighborhood the way it is. I believe the applicant has come a long way from where they certainly began, but it is a deviation. Staff has recommended denial. I would move for denial.
Other discussion, Commissioners?
I'll second his motion.
Make a comment about that before we vote. And I agree with what Commissioner Gales had just said about the compromise, and this really isn't going to be very much of a deviation from what the neighborhood already is. Just it is, but with the history of everything that's going on, I agree that also there's probably no way that anybody's going to agree to anything. But I'm persuaded, though, by the comment that I wasn't really aware of or was told about until I read the application last night. I was out of town during the time this was going on, that the Oklahoma City Plan policy is that we maintain historical lot sizes. The character should be protected by maintaining that. When I became a member of the Planning Commission, the former director advised me that all I have to do is follow the Oklahoma City Plan. And that's what I intend to do. So I can't support the application mainly because of that issue alone. And it is what it is. It stays where it is, and I can't get beyond that. So that's my comment.
I say the compromise is a reasonable one, and I don't think if I was driving through the neighborhood I would know whether there were 5 or 7 lots there. And I'm concerned about a comment Commissioner Gale said, which is there's nothing that would satisfy these neighbors. And the applicant's got property rights just like the neighbors do. And I guess I have that reservation.
On the other hand, just as was pointed out by the engineer, the staff said we need this size pipe, and then they come back and said, no, we need this size pipe, and then they come back and said, no, we need this. I think one of the major issues of this whole thing is drainage. And, when you're confused, to me, that is a major issue. Well, that's why I seconded the motion.
We have Public Works behind us who can come out and
I understand that, but that, they're, Mr. Chairman, they're not really set in what they really think they need in that, according to what the engineer just got through telling us.
Well, and in that regard, one of the things that came through to me in that discussion was when Mr. Kuhn was discussing those requirements and the requirements for detention, says we don't have to do anything on detention until we achieve 20,000 feet. And then he agreed with you, well, we'll probably go over 20,000 square feet.
With the first 4 houses, I would imagine.
Well, maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. My guess is, yes, you would, just because of the nature of the area, the size of the lots. I would expect people would want to build. If I was buying that lot, I would build more than a 2,600 square foot house, okay? But using that 20,000 square foot deal, I can also see an incentive for the developer to restrict the houses to about 2,600 square feet, build 7 of them. You come in at 18,000 square feet, so you can build a couple a little larger and save those detention dollars. That sword cuts both ways. And again, the lack of specifics in these and commitment in these plat notes really concerns me. If it had more teeth, it may be mitigated more. But
Kelly, you have something you want to say?
Well, if I could, I'd just like to respond to Commissioner Gale's comments that. And if the concern is that the proposed plat notes are not specific enough or that they don't cover topics that you feel should be covered, then certainly we would be open to make revisions to tighten those up or add additional restrictions to give a greater comfort level. We did provide the plat notes, just for your information, and we may have communicated this to you previously. We did provide those to the neighborhood, and we invited them to offer suggestions to us about what they would like to see in terms of restrictions and controls on the type of development, and they chose not to offer those suggestions. So we made the offer. It has,
No, I understand.
they've not taken
And
us up on it.
If you'll recall our meeting, I made that suggestion in the context of going to the neighborhood and trying to come to some common ground.
Yes.
And by, I think everyone's fully aware of there's a credibility problem here, and I was trying to bridge that credibility gap, and that's why I suggested when you went to the neighborhood that you make very specific commitments of what you would and wouldn't do, and get them in these plat notes. And like I said, I was disappointed when that wasn't in our staff report, and I was also disappointed that they are just proposed in the notebook I received and on this stuff that we received today. That's not what I anticipated. It doesn't appear to be complete. But again, that's your decision. That's up to the applicant what he wants to do and what he wants to present. I'm just not comfortable with the way it is.
Ryan?
If I could just address Mr. Allen's comments, we have never argued or tried to sway the stormwater staff's interpretation of this project. We've agreed to everything they've wanted. I didn't turn in something and say, no, you really don't need that, no, you don't need that, and I can prove it later. Everything that they wanted, we did, and we are agreeing to do.
I understand that. But what size houses was taken off these 4 lots? 1,200 square feet?
Maybe
1,300 square feet?
They were small. They were small.
Now we're going to put 7 houses on these lots. And we're not going to do anything with water until we get to 20,000 square feet.
And that was your staff's recommendation.
I understand that. That's the reason why I think there's confusion there.
Okay.
And, there's enough confusion that I can't vote for.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
But in the existing 5 lots, there could be huge homes built with no detention at all. And trust me, if you're selling houses at the price they sell for per square foot, when we reach that 20,000 square foot, it won't be an issue to do some detention.
Well, you could build
So we're not going to build 5 or 7, 2,000 square
You
foot.
could build 4 houses there, huge houses.
We can build 5 now. Yeah, 5 now. Yeah, there's 5 lots.
Is there
now.
5 lots? I thought there was 4.
No,
Okay.
there's 5. And they could be 7 or 8,000 square foot houses. I'm just saying, we have not argued with staff in any way. We've agreed to everything they wanted.
Jim, according to staff, the 5 houses that were removed constituted, in the aggregate, 20,000 square feet of building. So that's where they come up with that number.
I'm not the applicant, but I've talked to the client about if there is some concern about drainage, that for right now, you said I can't vote on it if we're not really certain about that. Not that you want to hear it again, but I think it's important enough that the client was willing to continue it for 2 weeks for the staff. If you need the staff to feel more comfortable with what they're commenting to us, we'll do that. I just think, well, I think you'll get a better deal with 7 with some restrictions than 5 with none.
Well, our public works engineer just walked in, so he's obviously going to share something with us.
Good afternoon, Public Works. Adir Agrawal with Public Works. Is there a specific question I need to address?
Just talk to us about the drainage on this project.
Detention is required because if they exceed, in 2004 there were 5 houses totaling 20,000 square foot of the impervious area. So if and when they exceed, they'll be required to provide detention. But in a typical subdivision, they have to build detention before even doing any construction. So that will be the requirement. And on the storm sewer pipe, this neighborhood has a system-wide issue. The impact of these houses, we're taking care of through detention. The system-wide issue has to be handled separately from the downstream end all the way up, and we are looking at the report right now to address that issue.
So you're saying retention is required right now? You're going to require retention on these 7 lots?
That's something that we do in any plat approval.
Okay, first house.
Okay.
That's different than what I heard before, but we will do that.
See what I'm saying?
I understand, and we'll do that.
Well, and that's something that maybe there's a miscommunication, but you will have to put detention at the get-go.
I understood that if we exceeded the 20,000 square feet, we would have to.
But in a plat, how would you assure that? So that unless you have notes on the plat itself saying that.
Sure, I understand.
Right.
We will do detention before a house is built. And it may be only for that one house, but before a house is built, there will be detention required or taken care of. There was a miscommunication, no doubt.
And I think maybe I said drainage was my big deal, but it's not my big deal. It is a big deal, but there's other items with this thing that I can't vote on. And, I think we ought to leave it the way it was, and that's my take on the thing. So I second, and we do have a motion on the floor.
Yep. Okay, ready to cast your votes? Cast your votes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is denied. We don't need the applause, please. That's inappropriate. Thank you.
Doors closed.
Okay, Russell, we're ready for number 20.
Item 20 is SPUD 633, which is an application by Chesapeake Land Development Company to rezone 1114 Northwest 58th Street from R1 and SPUD 597 to SPUD 633, Ward 2.
Mr. Chairman, Dennis Box and Tim Johnson and Rand Elliott were all here on behalf of Chesapeake. This is a case where, if you recall, there was some question about whether we'd be able to acquire the last 3 lots that were on the south side of 58th Street and on the east side of Military. And we finally were able to acquire those lots. Based on that, we've come in, and that's the application that you see in front of you. In addition, it's not before you today, but there has been an application on behalf of our client filed for the closing of 58th Street, and we have met with the neighborhood both on the closing application and on this application, knowing that what we're trying to do is blend PUD 1353 and blend SPUD 597 to where we provide for a line in the sand for the neighborhood that will provide a buffer, and also provide for a connection with the existing development and provide for future development. Now, on the SPUD that you have in front of you, we have provided that on the south portion of the SPUD, it will remain with no buildings. It will be parking. We will have the same screening that exists on the existing parking lot that will be extended to the west. And then there's possibility when 58th is closed and vacated, we might end up having a building or 2 buildings that might be placed within the confines of that area. So This is an application that, Mr. Bright, I look to you, and as the staff report says, it's in conformance, and as the former director told you, if it's in conformance, that's all you need to look at. So we're willing to look at anything else you all want to. If you got a question about signage, it will be very similar to the signage that is on Class and Curve, and Rand Elliott is here to answer any of those questions. We want to thank Janice Powers for continuing not only on this case, but the campus for the years that she spent coordinating with residents and residential neighborhoods, and I think this brings an end to the question of how far is commercial development going to go, where's the line going to be drawn, what are we going to do, and we are very excited about not only what's happened in Class and Curve so far, but what this will allow as far as opening up. It's kind of interesting when we met with the neighbors. The one thing they wanted to make sure happened was that they had additional ability to get from their houses to the commercial center. So it's been a good partnership, and we're here to answer any questions if you have any.
Dennis, just one comment about the term that you've drawn a line in the sand. Sands ever shift, and sands have shifted over the time with what you're doing, and I just love that comment. I'm doing in the sand, not in concrete. You didn't say you're putting a line in the concrete, it's in sand. But so I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that has been done on Class and Curve. Actually, I think it's a really good development, and as long as the neighbors are okay with the encroachment that you're doing, I'm fine with it.
I would have to say that the neighbors really do not consider this an encroachment. I think, from their point of view, and maybe from mine as well, this is the configuration that really kind of always made sense. When I had reluctance and hesitance about the original structure of the Class and Curve, partly it was because it didn't seem to me that it made a great deal of sense to keep it north of 59, that it really needed to encompass that whole area. But of course, that required the acquisition of the land, and that's not something you can just wave a magic wand and do. But I think the neighborhood is very pleased with this configuration. They have struggled with their own residents kind of holding their breath and waiting for land speculation and so on. And now they feel that their boundaries are set, and that affords them a level of certainty that will encourage the landowners within the neighborhood to improve their property and to bring it up to a level where it is responsive to the development around them. They really see the curve as a benchmark. And I have to say that both from up here and from the days when I was working the other side of this horseshoe, the collaboration between Chesapeake and the neighborhood has been really a unique and very positive, mutually beneficial collaboration, and I think probably everybody's to be congratulated. So,
Dan, praise is being heaped on you, and you're sitting way in the back of the room. Yeah. Safer back there?
Dan Ladon is here. And
Safer back there?
if there's not anybody who specifically wants to be heard on this, I'll move approval.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 20. Cast your votes, and it's approved.
Item 21 is SPUD 635, which is another application by Chesapeake Land Development Company to rezone 816 Northwest 59th Street from R1 to SPUD 635, Ward 2.
Before we get to that case, the one thing that the staff put in here that I want to make sure, I don't see a TE. Okay. There's a TE that deals with the monument sign. We're going to have the same kind of signs here as indicated in Class and Curve, and that's why Rand is here. So that's the we'd need it modified to take that technical evaluation out, and I'm going to let Rand, who so eloquently discussed...
But we got it through already, Dennis.
I understand.
Didn't we vote for that already? I assumed that the signage would be the same as on Class and Curve.
We don't call them signs. What do you call them?
They're called architectural elements.
We call them art.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Both was in red.
And
Well, then we need to,
Let's talk about where they're going to be.
you need to modify your motion, Janice.
Well, we need to
Let's talk about where they're going to be.
probably withdraw the motion and start all over. Janice?
He's going to show us where they are.
Well, the last motion is not going to hold, so...
No.
So you'll have to withdraw it at the appropriate time and make a new motion.
Can you show me first?
Yes, he may.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The location for the architectural elements would be above the parcel or tract 1 section, and would be in, above tract 2, and would be in tract 1.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the exact location hasn't been determined yet in this area, but generally it's thought to be central. Okay. And I have some images if you'd like to see those of the existing.
No, that's good.
I would move to reconsider our vote.
Withdraw your last motion.
Withdraw my last motion, even after we voted on it?
Yes, that's what we'll vote on withdrawal, and then it's gone, and then you can make a new motion incorporating the architectural elements.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
The last one? Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
So I am moving.
Oh, rescind the
my
motion, not
vote.
withdraw, rescind it.
You've got to delete the
Rescind
TE.
my motion?
Second.
Okay,
think
we're
it's the vote
rescinding
we're
the motion to
rescinding.
approve item 20. Cast your votes.
Yeah.
It's rescinded. Okay.
So then I'll move to approve the application with the elimination of TE number 1.
1.
And the, what?
we would agree that the signage will be similar and in conformance with the type of signage that you see on Class and Curve, and it'll have the architectural elements that Rand put in Class and Curve.
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 20, removing TE1 and as conditioned. Cast your votes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As point of clarification, Mr. Bright's planning knowledge has been supplemented by the current director as well. All right. Item 21, as previously read, SPUD 635.
This is an application where we're dealing with the campus, and we're here to answer any questions if you have any. What we've attempted to do is incorporate the same standards, same language that your other PUDs that incorporate this area have. These are just tracts that we've been able to acquire since we started with the development. So,
Janice?
Then there's no variation then on the conditions and regulations, if that's quite the right word, that surround this property. It's just applying them to this one.
that is correct.
I'll move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve item 21. Cast your votes, and that's approved.
Item 22 has been continued until October the 27th. Item 23 is a resolution amending Planning Commission's signed policies for plan unit development and simplified plan unit development rezoning applications. This is regarding electronic message display.
Need a motion to approve the amended resolution? Move approval.
I've got a question. Was I here when this was proposed?
You're always in Santa Fe. How would you know?
That's where I was. Why are we deleting that? What's the purpose? I mean,
The proposed amendment will require staff to encourage that EMD signs not be utilized. That's the purpose.
Not be utilized. I thought that our policy was just made all the sense in the world.
I think the point is that they were previously restricted.
And
downtown. Regarding residential settings, so this broadens that limitation.
I have to believe my director. I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the amended resolution. Cast your votes, and that's approved. And don't we have one, application 22 is done, so we are done with items for individual consideration. Planning Commission committees. Mike Hensley's not here. Planning Commission members. Any update on the Kilpatrick Turnpike sign? Susan? No. As in, you have no idea. Planning Department? Russell?
At last week's council, the formation of the Citizens Advisory Team to lead this next phase of the Plan OKC was approved by the council. And we are now accepting applications to sit on that body until November the 10th. I think we have resolution on the majority of assignments regarding the split between Planning Commission and City Council, although there are a few that are not yet settled. We do have 4 planning commissioners who are signed up, and so we're thinking that by default we end up with City Council and the other positions, although that has not yet been finalized. So I think those would be Ward 7 and 5. I think Councilman Greenwell was not so inclined to undertake the role, but that would leave us with a split of 5-3. So anyway, some additional conversations to occur. And Commissioner Bright, Commissioner Irwin, Commissioner Hensley, I think maybe your board were not decided on either yet, Jim. So, we have a commitment from Commissioner Hensley to sit on the Citizens Advisory Team. Councilman Shadid has indicated he wants to sit in Ward 2. Commissioner Irwin has agreed to sit in Ward 3. We don't have resolution for Ward 4 or 5. Commissioner Bright has indicated that he will do Ward 6. James, I don't know there's agreement. I think we were presuming you were sitting on that.
I still got to talk to Skip.
Right.
But it's that time.
Yeah. And then Commissioner Gales, I think Councilman Ryan had indicated he wanted to sit on that. Okay. Well,
what days is it?
We don't have a schedule yet, but the intent is to meet over the next 18 months or so, about 15 meetings, which will be facilitated, since obviously there'll be a lot to discuss, and there'll probably be differences of opinion. We did have an RFP out for facilitators to help us with this process. We think we're probably going to have to go out again, but that has not yet been determined yet. Okay. So, but we will need to finalize this pretty soon.
If it's on Tuesday, there's no way I could do that. Of course,
yeah, we haven't, as I said, set up a time, because it's going to be difficult to do that. But it probably would be preferable, I think, to the city council members to do it on a Tuesday. Probably preferable for the commission to do it on another day. So, as usual, the logistics of this are difficult, and I'm delegating that responsibility. But
well, we outnumber them.
Okay. In terms of some of the other elements of Plan OKC, we have selected a consultant to assist us with evaluation of our retail situation in the city.
and we'll be meeting on November the 4th to select somebody to assist with the housing demand study. We're almost finished with the growth scenario analysis RFP as well, so that should go to council here within the next month or so.
We're doing a cost of services study as well?
Same thing.
Notice I didn't call it you-know-what.
Yeah.
Just like Harry Potter, you can't name you-know-who.
Well, it is much broader than that, so, but obviously the information would inform discussions on such policy issues.
Thank you. Development Services, Municipal Counselor. Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, before you adjourn, I would like to invite everyone next Thursday on October the 20th. If you didn't get a invitation from the CDC, the Development Corporation, Central Urban Development, we're going to have the ribbon cutting and grand opening for the 32-unit tax credit project overall for Martin Luther King. So if by chance you didn't get one on the mailing list, I want to personally invite each one of the members of the commission to be present. That is to be at 10 a.m. It's in the 1800 block of Northeast 7th Street.
1 week from
10
today.
10 a.m. to 11. Thank you.
Thank you. We're adjourned.